The first pale rays of dawn slip over the horizon, painting the endless sands of the Giza plateau in shades of gold and rose. You stand quietly at the base of the Great Pyramid, the world around you hushed except for a whisper of desert wind. The stone blocks rise impossibly high, catching the morning light like a colossal sunlit staircase to the sky. For millennia, these pyramids have defied explanation, inspiring stories of lost civilizations, alien architects, and hidden truths buried beneath the shifting sands. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. As you lean back, imagine the footsteps of ancient travelers crunching across sun-baked stones, eyes wide as they first glimpsed these monuments rising from the desert. Some must have wondered who could possibly build something so massive, and why. Legends have swirled around the pyramids since the moment they were constructed. Ancient Greeks credited them to mythical kings with superhuman powers. In the Middle Ages, storytellers claimed they hid the knowledge of Atlantis. In modern times, conspiracy theories exploded, from wild tales of time travelers to whispered rumors of ancient aliens, swooping down in shiny ships to assemble the limestone blocks. Here's a solid historical fact. The Great Pyramid of Khufu was built around 4,500 years ago. During Egypt's 4th dynasty, meaning it was already older to Cleopatra than she is to us. Historians still debate whether the first myths of the pyramid's origin arose in ancient Egypt itself, or were invented later by travelers awed by the ruins. Speaking of wild ideas, did you know the ancient Romans sometimes brushed their teeth with powdered mouse brains? Talk about a dental plan that should have stayed buried. And yet, despite centuries of research, the pyramids remain cloaked in mystery. How did thousands of workers shape and move stone blocks weighing several tons each? Why did they align the structures so precisely with the stars? Could ordinary humans without modern machinery really have done it? As you sink deeper under your blanket, feel the warm desert breeze brushing your face, hear the soft calls of distant birds waking to the sun, and sense the awe of a place where time stands still. The sand may shift, the stories may twist, but the pyramids remain massive, silent, and waiting for us to uncover their true builders. The midday sun beats down on the plateau, casting short, sharp shadows behind lines of workers chiseling limestone under the watchful eyes of overseers. You hover just above the scene, as if drifting on a warm breeze, watching men in loincloths, their muscles straining as they maneuver heavy stones. But something is missing from the popular image you've seen in countless movies and old textbooks. There are no whips cracking, no gaunt, starving slaves collapsing under cruel masters. Instead, there's evidence of camaraderie, organization, and desactual pay for decades. The Hollywood version of the pyramid's construction showed endless columns of enslaved people trudging through the sand. But modern archaeology paints a very different picture. The Great Pyramid and its siblings were not built by armies of slaves, but by a workforce of well-fed, skilled laborers who were often respected for their role in one of history's most impressive feats. Here's a solid historical fact. Excavations at Giza have uncovered workers' barracks, bakeries, breweries, and even meat bones from cattle, evidence that pyramid builders were provisioned with high-quality food. Historians still debate whether all pyramid workers were permanent employees or if farmers rotated in seasonally when the Nile's floods. made agriculture impossible. Speaking of hard work, did you know beavers have orange teeth because of iron in their enamel, which makes them extra strong? Nature's tiny engineers would probably appreciate the pyramids. Precision. Evidence shows that pyramid builders organized themselves into teams with names like the Friends of Khufu or the Drunkards of Menkaure, a bit like construction crews today naming themselves things like the Concrete Cowboys. Records suggest these crews competed for bragging rights, carving playful graffiti in hidden chambers. Their labor wasn't forced misery. It was a source of pride, a job that might earn a man a decent living and honor for his family. Imagine the sounds of laughter and the clink of mugs as workers rested after long days. Picture stonecutters sharpening copper chisels by firelight, sharing stories of their homes along the Nile. The massive scale of the project required an unprecedented degree of coordination, supply lines bringing bread, beer, and tools, engineers directing stone placement, and cooks preparing meals to feed thousands. The old myth of endless whips in the sun simply doesn't match the ruins beneath the sand. Instead, what emerges is a society that recognized the importance of its builders, people who helped raise monuments intended to stand for eternity. So as you let your breathing slow, hear the steady rhythm of hammers on stone, the soft murmur of voices at dusk, and the quiet determination of men who knew they were building something greater than themselves. No chains required. The first light of dawn filters through a dusty corridor, cut deep into the Giza plateau. You glide above a group of archaeologists, carefully brushing sand from a row of skeletons, laid to rest more than 4,000 years ago. But these aren't pharaohs or priests, they're ordinary men who built the pyramids. Their tombs, found in the shadow of the Great Pyramid, tell a powerful story of lives lived in service, not slavery, and of a society that cared enough to bury its workers with respect. In the 1990s, Egyptologists discovered these workers' cemeteries just a few hundred meters south of the pyramids. The graves contain well-built mud-brick tombs, pottery, and personal items. Some even have small chapels and hieroglyphic inscriptions honoring the deceased. These builders were not treated like disposable labor. They were buried with ceremony, reflecting a deep connection between their work and their place in society. Here's a solid historical fact. Skeletal analysis of pyramid builders' remains shows evidence of healed bone fractures and medical care, indicating these laborers received treatment and support. Historians still debate whether these burial sites represent only a skilled core of craftsmen or include the broader seasonal laborers who rotated in from nearby villages. Speaking of tombs, did you know in the Victorian era, wealthy families sometimes staged picnics in cemeteries as a fashionable outing? Nothing says Sunday fun like sandwiches among gravestones. The workers' cemeteries shattered the slave narrative once and for all. Far from being shackled masses, these builders were organized, housed, and valued. The discovery of bakeries, breweries, and storage areas in the same area suggests a sprawling workers' village that could support thousands, almost like a temporary city buzzing with purpose. Imagine standing in the cool, sandy air of one of these simple tombs. Inscriptions show men proudly named for their work crews. Hieroglyphs record offerings from family members, bread, beer, onions, everyday foods meant to sustain them in the afterlife. These were men who knew their work would last far beyond their own lifetimes, who carved their legacy into stone as surely as any pharaoh. As you relax deeper into your blanket, picture rows of low mud-brick mastabas glowing in the soft morning light. Small markers of ordinary lives that together achieved something extraordinary, proof that history's greatest wonders often rest on the shoulders of forgotten heroes. The sun climbs higher over the plateau, the air shimmering with midday heat as you drift over a bustling camp of workers near the pyramids. Fires crackle under clay ovens. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the sharp tang of fermenting beer, and long lines of men carry baskets of onions and fish from supply carts. Far from scenes of misery, you find what looks more like a festival of labor sustained by calories, camaraderie, and careful planning. Archaeologists excavating these workers' villages discovered huge bakeries and breweries with evidence of large-scale production. Analysis of bones from cattle, sheep, and goats shows meat was provided regularly, a luxury by ancient standards. Workers were given rations of beer, often brewed thick and hearty enough to double as a meal, something like an ancient protein shake. If your gym served it by the jug. Here's a solid historical fact. Inscriptions record rations of roughly 4 liters of beer per day for pyramid workers, along with generous portions of bread, onions, and dried fish, high-energy foods, perfect for heavy labor. Historians still debate whether these rations indicate state-controlled payment or a religious duty by temple estates to feed laborers working on royal projects. Speaking of strong drinks, did you know medieval European monks once invented beer so nutritious they called it liquid bread? Sometimes history really does repeat itself. Beyond rations, evidence shows pyramid builders received organized medical care. Workers who broke bones or strained muscles were treated by healers skilled enough to set fractures properly, as seen in skeletal remains with signs of recovery. Such care wouldn't have been extended to disposable slaves. It shows investment in these laborers as valuable specialists. Imagine the clatter of wooden ladles in clay bowls, the low hum of songs sung after sunset as men rested by campfires, their bellies full and minds content. It's a very human scene, one far removed from cold. Faceless lines of chained workers, these were crews proud of their craft, laughing together at the end of a long day's toil. So, as your breathing grows slower, hear the soft hiss of rising dough, the cheerful splashes of beer poured into mugs, and the warm voices of men who didn't just build a wonder of the world, they ate well and drank better while doing it. A warm evening breeze drifts over the Giza plateau as the sun sinks behind the pyramids, turning their stone faces the color of molten gold. You hover near a group of men standing apart from the laborers, scribes with reed pens, foremen with polished staffs, and royal architects unrolling papyrus plans. These were the masterminds who transformed the pharaoh's divine ambitions into precise blueprints, a team of architects and engineers whose knowledge was so advanced it would puzzle scholars thousands of years later. Chief among them was Hemunu, believed by many Egyptologists to be the principal architect of the Great Pyramid. His statue, discovered near Giza, shows a confident man seated cross-legged, scroll across his knees, eyes gazing outward as if envisioning the massive project he oversaw. Unlike the laborers who toiled stone by stone, Hemunu and his colleagues coordinated resources, managed schedules, and calculated every angle of the pyramid's geometry. Here's a solid historical fact. The Great Pyramid's base is less than 2 inches out of level across a 756-foot span, astonishing precision for a monument built 4,500 years ago. Historians still debate whether the architects used plumb bobs, sightlines, water-filled trenches, or a combination of these methods to achieve such near-perfect alignment. Speaking of impressive precision, did you know honey never spoils? Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old jars of Egyptian charro, honey that is still edible, proof that some ancient recipes never go out of style. The architect's job extended far beyond lines on papyrus. They designed the ramps and scaffolding, the causeways linking the quarries to the pyramid, and the inner chambers where pharaohs' bodies would rest. They coordinated thousands of workers, arranged supply deliveries, and adjusted construction to account for unexpected challenges like shifting foundations or stone shortages. Imagine standing among these planners at dusk, hearing the soft crackle of reed pens scratching on scrolls, murmurs of calculations, and the distant rumble of sleds dragging stones across the sand. Their minds held the blueprint of the king's eternal home, a structure so immense it would endure earthquakes, sandstorms, and centuries of shifting dynasties. So as you let your eyelids grow heavy, picture the confident eyes of an ancient architect, staring into the horizon, seeing a pyramid where others saw only endless desert, and knowing exactly how to make the impossible rise from the sand. Asterisk. The desert air cools as stars begin to pierce the twilight, but you can almost hear the deep grunts and rhythmic chants of crews hauling massive stones across the sand. Sledges groan under multi-ton limestone blocks, while teams of men, ropes slung over their shoulders, lean in unison. Wooden rollers clatter beneath the sleds, and water is poured over the sand to ease the stone's path, a detail lost for millennia, until modern experiments revealed its genius. The logistics of moving these mountains of stone remain one of the most astonishing feats of the ancient world. Quarries lay a short distance south of the Giza plateau, where thousands of limestone blocks were cut with copper chisels and wooden wedges. Workers then dragged them along carefully prepared roads leading to the pyramid base, coordinating movement with signals from overseers perched on small hills. Here's a solid historical fact. Experiments by Dutch scientists in 2014 confirmed that wetting sand in front of sleds reduced friction by up to 50%, matching ancient depictions of workers pouring water ahead of the sled. Historians still debate whether ramps wound in a spiral around the pyramid's exterior or rose straight up one face, with new theories suggesting both might have been used at different stages. Speaking of moving heavy objects, did you know that in 18th century Europe, parties called furniture balls were thrown so guests could help move all a household's belongings in a single night? Beats paying movers. Imagine the moonlight shimmering on rows of men pulling ropes taut, the soft crunch of damp sand under sled runners, and the low, steady chants keeping hundreds of feet moving together. The entire operation demanded staggering coordination. Food supplies had to arrive on time, tools needed constant repair, and every block's placement had to match precise measurements, or the pyramid's shape would skew off course. Each day, new stones slid into place with near precision. Every few days, surveyors checked alignments with plumb lines and straight edges, ensuring each layer stayed true. Mistakes would not only waste labor, but risk structural collapse. So every movement was a careful balance of speed and accuracy. So, as you drift deeper under your blanket, hear the creak of ropes pulled taut, the muffled shuffle of thousands of sandaled feet, and the soft splash of water poured onto desert roads, simple yet brilliant methods that allowed ordinary humans to do the extraordinary. A humid breeze sweeps in from the Nile as you hover above a shimmering river, green reeds rustling along its banks. The great river gleams in the moonlight, snaking its way through the desert like a silver ribbon. Here, ancient Egyptians discovered the secret to moving mountains, the Nile itself. During the annual inundation, the river rose high enough to flood quarries and transport routes, turning dry sand into waterways that carried massive stones on wooden barges to construction sites. This seasonal flooding wasn't just a blessing for farmers, it was a lifeline for pharaohs. By floating limestone blocks down the Nile, workers avoided dragging heavy stones over scorching desert for miles. Barges were lashed together to form floating platforms, each carrying several stones at a time, pushed along by teams of rowers or sails that caught the Nile's breezes. Here's a solid historical fact. Reliefs from ancient tombs show scenes of men loading stones onto barges during flood season, confirming the Nile's key role in pyramid construction. Historians still debate whether special canals were dug directly to the pyramid base or if workers hauled stones the last distance overland once the floodwaters receded. Speaking of unexpected engineering, did you know the oldest known wooden prosthetic toe was found in an Egyptian tomb? It dates back over 3,000 years and was crafted with stunning precision as the Nile rose. Timing was everything. Workers had to quarry, shape, and ship stones within the narrow window of high water. Overseeing these logistics required scribes to track shipments and ensure no block went missing. Single lost stone could delay construction weeks or even months. Miscalculations risked barges stranded in receding waters or crashes into riverbanks. Imagine floating at dawn among these wooden barges, the splash of oars and shouted orders echoing across misty water, the scent of wet earth rising from flooded fields. Long lines of workers pushed stones up ramps from the river's edge toward the plateau, timing every move with the river's flow. So as your eyes grow heavy, let your mind drift with the gentle current of the Nile. Hear the creak of wooden hulls gliding through moonlit water, and feel the quiet genius of a civilization that turned their river into a superhighway for building wonders. Asterisk. The sky glows a deep indigo over the pyramids as you hover among their shadowed edges, stars twinkling above. Down below, two men sit by a flickering campfire, trading stories that drift between laughter and hushed awe. One insists the pyramids were built by beings from beyond the stars. The other scoffs, pointing to the ramps and tools lying nearby. Even in ancient times, mysteries around the pyramids inspired myths, and today, the most enduring is the idea that aliens, not humans, must have built these colossal structures. This idea gained momentum in the 20th century with writers who claimed the pyramids' precision and massive scale were impossible without extraterrestrial help. Popular books and TV shows suggested visitors in shiny ships arrived to bestow their knowledge upon confused ancient people. Images of laser beams cutting limestone and UFOs hovering over Giza fired the imaginations of millions. Here's a solid historical fact. Extensive archaeological evidence including workers' villages, tools, ramps, and quarry marks shows clearly that humans built the pyramids with ingenuity, not otherworldly intervention. Historians still debate why alien theories remain popular, with some pointing to fascination with lost knowledge, while others see echoes of colonialist thinking that denies non-European cultures their achievements. Speaking of alien oddities, did you know there's a fungus that turns ants into zombies, forcing them to climb plants before bursting from their heads? Nature sometimes outweirds any science fiction. Far from disrespecting ancient Egyptians, many early alien theorists believed they were honoring them by proposing cosmic assistance. But in truth, Such ideas can obscure the very real brilliance of a civilization that mastered quarrying, mathematics, and logistics. Evidence shows copper chisels shaped limestone blocks with remarkable precision. Sledges, ramps, and counterweights allowed people, flesh and blood, humans to haul and place each massive stone. Imagine the dark silhouettes of ramps zigzagging up pyramid faces, the soft glow of oil lamps lighting teams of builders, and the low hum of chants in the night. Picture overseers checking measurements with plumb bobs and leveling tools, ensuring each layer aligned within inches of perfection. So, as you sink deeper into your pillow, let the whisper of starlight remind you that sometimes the most extraordinary explanation is the simplest one, that ancient people, through determination and ingenuity, built monuments to their own greatness, no flying saucers required. The first rays of dawn sweep over the plateau, shadows creeping down the pyramid's steps as you glide beside ancient surveyors checking lines drawn in the sand. In one hand, they hold cords knotted at regular intervals. In the other, plumb bobs dangling from strings. These simple tools, wielded with astonishing precision, unlocked the pyramid's secrets. For ancient Egyptians, mathematics wasn't an abstract idea, it was a lifeline for building monuments meant to stand forever. The Great Pyramid's sides align with the cardinal points to within a fraction of a degree, and its base is almost perfectly square. Such feats required knowledge of geometry, angles, and ratios that rivals even today's precision. Egyptologists have uncovered papyri showing calculations for slopes, area, and volume, proving the builders used math deliberately, not by trial and error. Here's a solid historical fact. A scroll known as the Rhind Mathematical Papyrus, dating to about 1650 BCE, contains practical problems for calculating areas, volumes, and proportions, reflecting knowledge likely used during pyramid construction. Historians still debate whether Egyptian mathematicians derived their techniques independently or absorbed ideas from older cultures in Mesopotamia. Speaking of ancient numbers, did you know that Babylonian mathematicians used a base 60 system, giving us 60 minutes in an hour and 360 degrees in a circle? Some ideas stick around for thousands of years. On the plateau, teams of surveyors laid out grids with astonishing accuracy, using right-angle triangles formed with chords to create perfect corners. They measured slope gradients to control the pyramid's angle, usually around 51 degrees, so each course of stone fit precisely atop the last. Any deviation would multiply as the pyramid rose, causing it to lean or collapse. But their methods kept the towering monument true. Picture the soft dawn light glinting off polished copper tools, the low murmurs of overseers checking each placement, and the patient focus of men who understood their math meant the difference between triumph and ruin. Even today, laser measurements of the pyramids confirm their near-flawless geometry, a testament to human skill rather than mystical secrets. So as your breathing grows, slow and steady, hear the faint rustle of knotted cords brushing sand, the soft thud of wooden measuring rods striking the ground, and the quiet pride of builders who turned numbers into stone and stone into eternal wonder. Asterisk, a dry desert wind rattles red tents as you drift over a group of men locked in heated discussion. Some jab their fingers at sketches of ramps sloping straight up the pyramid's face. Others point to spiraling designs wrapping around the outside. This isn't ancient Egypt, it's a conference room in modern Cairo, where archaeologists, engineers, And historians still argue over one of the biggest questions of pyramid construction. How did they get those massive stones all the way to the top? No definitive records describe the ramp systems, but fragments of ancient illustrations and remains of low ramps around pyramid bases offer clues. Some theories suggest long, straight ramps extending hundreds of meters from the pyramid, requiring enormous amounts of material to build and remove. Others propose spiral ramps, corkscrewing up the exterior, allowing continuous placement of stones as the pyramid rose. A newer idea even suggests internal ramps concealed within the pyramid's layers. Here's a solid historical fact. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin's 21st century theory posits that the Great Pyramid may contain a spiraling internal ramp, partially supported by microgravity scans, revealing voids matching his model. Historians still debate whether these internal ramps ever existed, or if ancient builders relied on more traditional external ramps that left few traces. Speaking of engineering, debates. Did you know Leonardo da Vinci once sketched designs for a bridge so innovative that modern tests proved it would have worked perfectly, if only he'd built it? In every model, the ramp system had to solve three crucial problems: stability, a slope shallow enough to haul stones, and the ability to lengthen or raise as construction progressed. Too steep, and sledges couldn't climb. Too narrow, and traffic would bottleneck. Every stone placed higher meant adjusting ramps and ensuring crews worked safely. Imagine the chaotic but precise scene: men adding new sections of ramp at night by torchlight, others smoothing surfaces with clay and water, and overseers shouting orders from scaffolds. Mistakes risked catastrophic collapses, but careful planning kept the project moving skyward. So, as your eyes grow heavy, hear the muffled crunch of stones rolled along ramps, the soft hiss of wet sand spread to ease friction, and the hushed debates then. And now over how one of humanity's greatest achievements reached so high. The midday sun glints off chisels and hammers as you drift through the cool shade of a workshop near the pyramid's base. Here rows of skilled craftsmen carve hieroglyphs into limestone blocks, polish granite sarcophagi until they gleam, and paint vibrant scenes of gods and pharaohs onto wooden coffins. These artisans were the forgotten backbone of pyramid construction. Highly trained specialists whose delicate work completed what the brute force of stone haulers alone could never achieve. These craftsmen weren't mere laborers, they were elite. Members of society often trained from childhood in temple schools. Sculptors, painters, and stonecutters transformed raw materials into detailed masterpieces that would decorate burial chambers and royal tomb goods. Their skills extended far beyond stone blocks. They crafted jewelry, ceremonial furniture, and religious statues, each essential to the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Here's a solid historical fact. Archaeologists have found detailed tools like copper chisels, dolerite pounders, and polished stone burnishers in craftsmen's workshops at sites near Giza. Historians still debate how much of the interior decoration was completed before chambers were sealed, and whether some chambers were hastily finished after a pharaoh's death. Speaking of overlooked artisans, did you know the same factory that made the Eiffel Tower's ironwork also built the Statue of Liberty's internal framework? Some workshops leave their mark on multiple wonders. As the pyramid rose, craftsmen moved up alongside the builders, smoothing each new layer of limestone casing. Their finishing touches transformed rough stones into seamless surfaces that caught the sun like polished mirrors. In the pyramid's hidden chambers, Artists painted stars on ceilings to represent the night sky and inscribed prayers to guide the pharaoh's soul. Metal workers in these crews fashioned copper handles, golden amulets, and delicate blades for burial treasures. Imagine wandering through these workshops in twilight, the warm flicker of oil lamps dancing across bright pigments, the quiet scrape of chisels shaping hieroglyphs, and the hushed conversations of artists perfecting details that would remain unseen for millennia. So as you drift further toward sleep, hear the patient tap-tap of hammers, the soft rustle of papyrus sketches laid out for reference, and the quiet pride of craftsmen whose anonymous hands shaped history's most enduring symbols. Asterisk, moonlight spills over the plateau as you drift through the dim corridors hidden deep inside the pyramids. Walls etched with graffiti left by the builders themselves. Here, in the spaces few eyes ever saw, crews immortalized their team names in red ochre, the drunkards of Menkaure, the friends of Khufu, playful monikers that reveal a surprising human side to those who labored on these immense monuments. In the 19th century, archaeologists first discovered these builders. Marks scrawled on the backs of limestone blocks in the Great Pyramid's inner chambers. Far from royal inscriptions or religious texts, they were simple, casual note-spot roster. Part inside joke, recording who laid which stones. These scribbles confirmed what earlier clues suggested. The pyramids were built by organized teams of workers with strong bonds and pride in their work. Here's a solid historical fact. Many of these marks are written in hieratic script, a cursive form of hieroglyphs used for quick notes, and often include dates and references to work crews. Historians still debate whether these inscriptions were sanctioned by overseers as a way to track progress or spontaneous expressions of team spirit by the crews themselves. Speaking of graffiti, did you know the world's oldest known Yamam joke was found on a 3,500-year-old Babylonian tablet? Turns out trash talk is truly timeless. Beyond crew names, some graffiti includes crude sketches of animals or short prayers for safety glimpses of the personalities behind the construction. These scribbles give pyramid building a human scale, reminding us that behind each stone were real people with jokes, worries, and friendships. Picture crouching in a narrow torchlit passageway, the air cool and heavy with dust, as a worker leans over a freshly placed block to scrawl his team's name before it's sealed forever. The quiet scratch of reed pens on stone echoes faintly in the darkness. So, as your breathing slows, hear the soft laugh of a tired builder writing a quick joke on a wall, the shuffle of feet in cramped corridors, and the subtle comfort of knowing that even history's greatest monuments bear the personal touch of the people who made them. A soft dawn breaks over the plateau as you hover above layers of limestone rising steadily toward the sky, each course of blocks stacked with methodical precision. Time seems to slow as decades of labor unfold beneath you, from the first foundation, stones laid on bedrock, to the final capstone glittering in the sun. The pyramids were not built in a single pharaoh's lifetime. They were long-term projects that spanned reigns, political shifts, and even the deaths of kings. While Khufu's Great Pyramid may have begun with a grand plan, its construction likely stretched over 20 to 30 years, requiring continuity across royal administrations. Egyptologists have pieced together a timeline of construction phases from tool marks, incomplete casing stones, and radiocarbon dating of organic material trapped in mortar. These traces reveal how crews adapted designs as they climbed higher, adjusting angles or modifying chambers based on new engineering challenges. Here's a solid historical fact. Studies of organic materials in mortar date different pyramid sections years apart, confirming work continued in stages rather than all at once. Historians still debate whether political upheavals during construction caused delays or forced changes to the pyramid's original plans. Speaking of projects that drag on, did you know a cathedral in Cologne, Germany, took over 600 years to finish? Turns out giant construction timelines aren't just an ancient Egyptian problem in these drawn-out projects. Some crews who started the job may have died before it finished, their sons or grandsons stepping in to continue the work. The pyramids became multi-generational undertakings, linking families to a legacy of craftsmanship passed from father to son. Some stone blocks even show signs of minor repairs made years apart, suggesting builders revisited earlier levels as construction progressed. Imagine the shifting moods on the plateau, the excitement of new crews arriving to lay fresh courses, the fatigue of veterans who remembered the pyramid as little more than a foundation, the pride of watching a mountain of stone grow closer to completion with every sunrise. So, as your eyelids grow heavy, feel the slow pulse of time stretching. Across decades, hear the steady thud of chisels echoing from one generation to the next, and sense the quiet determination of builders who knew their work would outlast their own lives. *A. Restless evening wind stirs sand around the pyramids as you drift above 19th century tents dotting the plateau. European explorers in pith helmets wander among the colossal stones by lamplight, sketching what they see, spinning stories for eager audiences back home. These were the early days of Egyptology, when a sense of mystery and adventure fueled imaginations and helped birth many of the myths. Still haunting pyramid lore today, writers and mystics of the 1800s and early 1900s often filled gaps in knowledge with speculation. Some claimed the pyramids were built by survivors of Atlantis. Others insisted they encoded secret prophecies predicting the future of humanity. Early books like Piazzi Smythe's Our Inheritance in the Great Pyramid popularized the idea that the pyramids contained hidden mathematical messages, connecting them to biblical timelines or lost civilizations. Here's a solid historical fact. In 1859, Charles Piazzi Smythe proposed measurements of the Great Pyramid contained a pyramid inch that predicted events like the birth of Christ and the end of the world, a theory widely debunked today. Historians still debate how much early Egyptologists' personal beliefs colored their interpretations, and whether these ideas did more harm than good in preserving real history. Speaking of overtop theories, did you know a 1920s psychic claimed the Sphinx's paw hid a secret library from Atlantis? Even Edgar Cayce fans had pyramid fever. While these early explorers mapped tombs and copied hieroglyphs, their sensational tales inspired newspapers to hype stories of pharaohs' curses, cosmic codes, and alien architects. These stories captivated the public and sold books, but often overshadowed careful scholarship. Even today, documentaries and clickbait articles echo ideas born more than a century ago. Imagine flickering oil lamps casting long shadows across the pyramid faces, explorers whispering of hidden chambers, and the soft rustle of journal pages, recording both real finds and wild speculation. The silence of the desert lent itself to myth-making, a vast stage where every echo became a clue to lost secrets. So, as your breathing slows, hear the hiss of lantern flames, the crunch of boots on sand, and the distant murmur of stories spinning from fact into legend, myths that still drift across the pyramids like desert winds. The sun sets over the Giza plateau, the pyramids casting long, majestic shadows across shifting sands. You float above tourists tracing ancient paths, guides recounting legends of pharaohs and curses. Even in an age of satellites and laser scans, the pyramids remain symbols of mystery. Why do we still cling to wild theories about aliens or lost continents when mountains of evidence show the genius of ancient Egyptians? Part of the answer lies in the human love for wonder. The idea that a secret is hidden just out of reach is irresistible, whether it's stories of Atlantis or tales of Atlantean technologies buried beneath the stones. And some myths serve to romanticize the past, making history feel like a puzzle only the cleverest can solve. Yet these myths can overshadow the real people, the quarry workers, the cooks, the architects whose achievements deserve our awe. Here's a solid historical fact. Excavations over the past 50 years have unearthed thousands of tools, workers' housing, graffiti, and human remains, confirming that the pyramids were built by organized, well-fed Egyptian laborers. Historians still debate how to best communicate the truth, without dismissing the sense of wonder that first draws people to these monuments. Speaking of wonder, did you know there's a rare type of fog called a har that can roll in so thick it makes Scottish castles look like they're floating? Reality sometimes outmagics fantasy. When we recognize who really built the pyramids, we honor the skill, innovation, and perseverance of an ancient civilization that dared to dream on a scale unmatched for millennia. We celebrate a culture that aligned monuments with stars, organized massive workforces, and crafted wonders still standing thousands of years later. It doesn't make the pyramids less impressive to know they were built by human hands. It makes them even more extraordinary. Imagine the warm night air of the desert, the scent of dust and stone, and the ghostly echoes of workers' songs carried on the breeze. In each block of limestone, there's a story of sweat, determination, and belief in a legacy meant to last forever. So, as your breathing slows, hear the soft wind whispering across ancient stones, the quiet heartbeat of a civilization that left its mark in perfect lines of rock, and the comforting truth that sometimes humanity's own hands are the most powerful tools of all. Asterisk now. Let the night wrap you in its soft, dark embrace, and let your mind drift across the quiet sands of Giza. Picture the pyramids glowing faintly under a sky blanketed with stars, the air still warm from the day's sun, and the timeless stones whispering their stories into the breeze. As your eyelids grow heavier, remember the men who carved each block with calloused hands and patient hearts, their voices rising in ancient songs lost to the wind. Feel the slow, steady breath of a world older than any written word, where simple tools and determined minds created wonders meant to defy time itself. Let each thought soften like footsteps fading across the sand, each memory blur like stars shimmering on the horizon. Know that the greatest mysteries are not always hidden in myths, but revealed in the sweat and dreams of people who believed they could reach the heavens. Tonight, as you sink deeper into your blanket's warmth, rest easy knowing the pyramids stand as a testament to human will eternal, silent, and waiting beneath a canopy of endless night. Sleep well, and may your dreams rise as high as the ancient stones. End script. Good night.